But yeah, I don't think that dream is just a dream. I think that someone was feeding him the information he would need to survive. I think when someone came and scared the Chandrian away and he felt like someone was watching him, I think those same people that saved him from the Chandrian also fed him the information that he needed to survive, but not only fed him information he needed to survive, but also gave him hints of things he would need to know in the future that would be important. Because I think that when they talk about the Greystones, he says, so then Ben was no longer there, and there was not one standing stone, but many, more than I had ever seen in one place before. They formed a double circle around me. One stone was set across the top of two others, forming a huge arc with thick shadow underneath. I reached out to touch it. This is similar to the description in Feyrennial, possibly the Doors of Stone. In Feyrennial, it's described as, there's a place not many folk have seen, a strange place called Feyrennial. If you believe the stories, there are two things that make Feyrennial unique. First, it is where all roads in the world meet. Second, it is not a place any man has ever found by searching. It is not a place you travel to. It is a place you pass through while on your way to somewhere else. So he walked and then later on he walked through the center of Feyrennial, and as he did, he saw a circle of great greystones. I think the circle of great greystones in that story of Skiop that Kavoth tells Will and Sim about the bum traveling through Feyrennial and comes across the different groups. I think that circle of greystones and the one he dreams about is the same. And if that's the case, he's never seen that. And it's highly likely someone was putting that into his mind for information, embedding a memory into his mind for later.
So this also kind of plays into, I don't know if it's a direct theory, but something we've talked about before, where his bloodline seems to be, his particular bloodline seems to be a nexus of Lacklust, Rue. There's some Fey in there, right?
I don't know if Fey, but I mean, if he's
connected through the story.
Yeah, if he's a descendant of Ajax, then Ajax is the one that created the Fey. I think the Fey, I think you got the two groups. The people that went into the Fey, I think they became Fey creatures through the years, through kind of like an evolution process. So I don't know if they started as Fey. I don't think that's the case. But regardless, yeah. So he's got some lineage to the guy that created the Fey, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that's, I mean, because that again ties into, it ties into a lot of things. It ties into this, the possible use of Kavoth to accomplish tasks that they're looking to have accomplished. So they're progressing him along. Somebody's looking out for him, or it's almost like he's fitting that fateful plan that we've sort of talked towards a little bit as well.
Yeah. Also, though, going on talking about like the two parts of that, the couple parts of that dream where it wasn't information that he had before. Like, obviously the Lacklust stuff is learning how to survive. But then you also have about Ben with the knots. What I think is kind of cool about it says, knots are an interesting thing, Ben said as he worked. The knot will either be the strongest or the weakest part of the rope. It depends entirely on how well one makes the binding. Because they talk about binding, and binding is tied up in magic so much, it makes me think of the written magic that Denna talks about. How she was when she was learning how magic works from Kavoth and Will and Sim in the bar, and she asked them, have you guys ever heard of a written magic where you write something down and it makes it come true?
Like runes, right?
Not like runes. Like I took they were like, no, it sounds like fairy tale magic. It sounds like something that doesn't exist. They not like a sigildry, something different. Like just writing. I want to be happy.
Like a spell.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But like a written spell. And you see her throughout the stories. She's tying, knots in her hair, and she's always, it's a consistent theme where she's tying knots in her hair. And then at one point, Kavoth sees the knot in her hair, and he goes, beautiful, because he reads it. It's a Yilish knot, and it's spelled, the knot she tied, spelled beautiful. And then when she gets embarrassed and takes it out, and he is like, I liked it, how it was better. And she is like, yeah, that's kind of the point. And you're supposed to see it and think beautiful, is basically what she's implying. So, but she does this throughout the books. And that was just the one time where he realized the knots she's tying in her hair spell something. And so I think she might discover a written form of magic. And I think Ben is describing maybe Yilish knots and a written form of magic in that part. And so maybe the Yilish knots are going to play a bigger role. I think there's a reason why he's learning how to read Yilish knots. I think if they're going to play a bigger role, might be something to do with the Doors of Stone. And it could be that this part here is kind of implanting that seed for written magic into his mind, similar as imprinting the seed of the Greystones is preparing him for future events.
So this could be about this could also be about the Lacklust Box, right?
Yeah, that's what I would think it would have to do with, is how to open the Lacklust Box. I think there's some kind of written, like Yilish knots, a written form of magic on there that you have to be able to read to be able to open it.
Well, I mean that does tie into naming, right? I mean, it's written, but names mean something, right? Words mean something. Certain names to certain things unlock certain things.
Yeah.
So it's just a different form, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely. I think it's a type of magic. I think that's what Ben is describing. I don't think it's sailor's knots. I think it's written form of magic in the form of knots, in the form of Yilish knots.
Huh. That's really interesting. Yeah, it's funny because this last read through, I noticed the binding thing, but I didn't make that deeper of a connection. But it's, again, one of these things that, Fitz talked about before, and I think we all experience it, especially on our first read through. We're like, I think there's something more here. I'm going to continue. Maybe I'll come back to it, but I remember I had that feeling on this one where it's like, oh, binding. Because, I mean, it's so great because it's also, he's telling us in the subject matter of the book, words mean something. Words mean something. Everything he puts in this book means something. There's no throwaways, right? So we've said that a number of times.